Yeah, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Chavruta sessions live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center. Rabbi just stepped away from his computer for a second here. He'll be right back. I want to welcome in our class today Batya from Germany. Batya joined in one session last week. She reached out to the Noahide World Center a couple of weeks back, and we're so glad to see her in the class. Welcome, Batya. Welcome, Helen and Martina and Bart and Ange. Always good to have you folks with us. Just waiting for Rabbi Goldberg, and we'll start the class. Oh, Rabbi's there. Oh, let me just open your microphone. Shalom, Rabbi Goldberg. We're going to turn the class over to you. Always a joy to be with you. I really appreciate the lessons you've been teaching us. So I give the class over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening from Jerusalem. Someone told me that the computer needs to be a bit higher. Everything is fine with you can see me fine. Everything is fine. You can hear me fine. Yes, everything is okay. The mic. I don't have a good mic. I need to buy one. Fair enough. Okay, now you can hear me better. I don't know. Hopefully. Excellent, very good. Now I don't know, I hope that you all remember that we had sessions, I will say it was last year, okay? This time last year, a year ago, and we had a sessions about the Kuzari book. We had 12 sessions about the Kuzari book. And basically it's being organized as a story, about it's a true story, but Rabbi Yehuda Levi invented his, in his ideas, in his mind, the discussion. But the issue is that it was some sort of a story that happened in the Khuzarian area, that the king was searching for the truth, and he admitted at the end that he needs to follow the roots of the Jews, and he converted, and also a lot of people from his country converted. Till today, we know that there are those from the destinies of the Kuzarim. The issue is that it's very interesting when it's coming as a story. Okay, so we have a very big sage. His name is Rabbi Nachman Mibreslav. I'm sure that you heard about him, right, Bart? Everybody heard about Rabbi Nachman Mibreslav? And he is saying something amazing. He is saying that most of the famous stories, okay, that are running around the world, we can learn from them a lot, and they are hitting assumptions that was given to the world, and people try to hold those assumptions in a unique way. And usually we use it as, stories for kids, but the truth is that we can learn a lot from them. So I don't know how much I will manage tonight because I have a short time, sorry. But let's start, okay? I want to speak about the Cinderella story. We all know the Cinderella story? Who doesn't know the Cinderella story? It's a very famous story, about kids. About the one that he was married and his wife died. So they had a daughter. His wife died, so he took someone else, another mother, and she came along to the family with the two, I will say, sisters. That was very bad to this child, and to the one that didn't have a mother. And they say to her all the time that she's useless and nobody will take her. And they're the princesses, and she's only, the ugly one, and they gave her a lot of work to do, and they annoyed her very much. And at the end, she sneaked out to the party with her friends, with a mouse, whatever it was, and the pumpkin became a carriage, And at the end, she was there, she was dancing, she was the most beautiful girl there, and the prince really liked her. and she ran away at 12 o'clock at night, and the pumpkin became back a pumpkin, and she ran away at home, but she left the shoe. And at the end, after searching, he found her, and Cinderella became Cinderella, and the world is always seeking, looking for those people that are from nowhere suddenly becoming something very big. She was from the beginning, she was, a princess, but she got lost in this horrible family, okay, in this situation. So, do we believe in this story? What do you say? Do we believe in this story? This story basically is a parallel for a very interesting situation that we have today in our world. Okay? Let's go step by step. Don't be amazed. I will say it in general, and then we'll go inside. We'll drill inside to all sorts of ideas. Okay? We are today in a very unique time that even King Solomon didn't have the opportunity of dealing with things that we're dealing today. King Solomon also dealt with the Noahide people who came to the house of God. Okay, and you can see this also in his beauty prayers when he opened the house of God. The Temple Mount, and he's saying there very clear that God, you need to listen also to the foreigners, not the Jewish people, the foreigners who are coming and giving sacrificing, in this house. And whenever they come here, you need to listen to them and to give them the blessing, because this is a place of the blessing, and those who acknowledge you need to come. So he was dealing also, and it's written down in Kings 2, chapter 8. And it's a very long chapter, a very nice prayer there that King Solomon is praying. But King Solomon didn't deal with Noahide people that came from Christianity or came from the Islam. Those two big, I will say, sisters of the Jewish nation, okay, that they are not, I will say, the source, but they took, I will say, from the source, from the Hebrew nation. There, it's like a tree that suddenly is taking out two outside, parts of the tree outside of him that is not 1% part of the tree. Okay, and those two sisters that King Solomon didn't have, it's just the same with Cinderella, with the two sisters, the Muslims and the Christians first, and then the Muslims after that. 800 years after that. And those two sisters, along history, all the time said that the Hebrew nation have no way didn't agree, I will say it like that, okay, in any way that the main sister, okay, the original sister, have the possibility of living here with them. And more than that, she will go to, for example, to Pascal, okay, one of the greatest scientists that we have on one side. On the other side, he was also a big, he believed in God. But he said, one of the things that he stated, that we can state from here, that the Jews are here only for being the slaves all the time, and to show to the world how much God neglected them. It's the same thing with Cinderella. Remember that? Starting to see how much is the same thing. Now, the most amazing thing is at the end, suddenly, the king is taking back Cinderella to his palace. The palace is, the Hebrew place. When I'm saying the Hebrew place, okay, let's share for more on the screen and show you that it's written down something that was very clear in the timing of Genesis. Okay, let's go for a moment to Genesis, and I will go to Genesis. Okay, I'm going to chapter 39 in Genesis. Dan, can you read something, or it's too much? 39, I said. Excellent, excellent. Okay, in chapter 39, it's the time that Joseph is inside the jail. Now, even though he is in the jail, the master of the jail is giving him a lot of responsibilities because everything that he's doing have the blessing of God. Okay, and it says here,
Do you want me to start reading from 1?
No. I think that we need to go to chapter 40. Sorry, my mistake. Yes. No. It is in chapter 39. I remembered correctly. Okay, let's go for a moment to the end of this chapter, after everything that happened, whatever it is, and then read those from 20 to 23, please.
All right, from Genesis chapter 39, verse 20. So Joseph's master took him and put him into prison, the place where the king's prisoners were imprisoned, and he was there in the prison. 21. The Lord was with Joseph, and he extended charisma to him, and he gave him favor in the eyes of the warden of the prison. 22. So the warden of the prison delivered all the prisoners who were in the prison into Joseph's hand, and whatever they did there, he was the one who did it. 23. The warden of the prison did not inspect anything that was in Joseph's hand, for the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made prosper.
So we have here Joseph, who is neglected from his brothers, and then he was also neglected in his master's house, and then he was inside the jail. But even though you have the charisma, you have the beauty of God, okay, and the handsome of everything that he's doing. And then at the end, we all know the story. We're not going inside to the story too much now, but those two masters of the King Pharaoh was thrown into the jail, and they had dreams, and Joseph is solving those dreams, and then he's saying something amazing. Nobody really he's saying to the master of the drinks, okay, that he will go back to serve in the palace, and then you have a very interesting request from him. So please let's read 13, 14, and 15, please.
All right. In another 3 days, Pharaoh will number you with the other officers, and he will restore you to your position, and you will place Pharaoh's cup into his hand according to your previous custom when you were his cupbearer. 14. But remember me when things go well with you, and please do me a favor and mention me to Pharaoh, and you will get me out of this house. For I was stolen from the land of the Hebrews, and here too I have done nothing for which they have put me into the dungeon.
So we have here a very interesting definition. I was stolen from the land of the Hebrews. The master will say this to Pharaoh in the next chapter. He will say to him, there was a Hebrew man with us in the jail, okay, after 2 years. Everybody knows this is the palace of God, the palace of the Hebrew people, where God is here, his presence is here, and it wasn't even, this is another story, okay? The Sleepy Beauty, we all know the Sleepy Beauty, okay? For the last 2,000 years, nobody really were in this palace. And we know that there are a lot of evidence that it was a place very astonishing. Nobody was here in the time that we were not here. And it waited for us, this palace, okay? The Sleepy Beauty woke up when we came. But I want to continue with Cinderella. The idea that the Hebrew people are supposed to suffer, and this is part of showing how God neglected them, and only now the other two sisters can fight one with each other. about who is, who is more demolishing the Hebrew people, and therefore they are the best. This is the hidden idea of Cinderella. Now I want to show another two interesting points inside Cinderella. We have one of the most important part of the story is with the shoe, right? Remember that, the shoe, right? She's losing her shoe, and then the queen, not the queen, sorry, no, the prince, sorry, the prince will find her because of the shoe, right? Remember that? I want to show you something about the shoe. Again, people don't really realize. The shoe is a very important symbol in the Hebrew nation, and we use it, the shoe, in a few interesting times. And it's a parallel. It's showing the idea that each one of us have, I will say, a big soul, that only the part of the last part of the soul, the soul is going inside to the body, but the soul is much bigger. Okay, this is on one side how to look at things, but there is another thing here with the shoe, and we find the shoe, especially with King David, with his destiny, and with the, I will say, the possibility of bringing the Messiah. Let me show you, okay? Let me show you. Don't be surprised. Again, I said to you, we need to find the right ideas that is running around, okay? If we go to let's go to Ruth. What is this thing? No. Ruth is it's the Megillah, it's a story of the great grandmother of King David, okay? She wasn't grown up in the Hebrew country, or she wasn't even a Jewish lady. It wasn't Jewish then. It was only Israelite and the Hebrew people. She was from a different, I will say, nation, from the nation that came from Lot. Okay, Lot had two nations that came from him, Ammon and Moab. So Moab, Ruth was from Moab. Okay, Ruth was from Moab, and you can read after that this story. There was an interesting situation where very important people from Bethlehem, Yehuda, okay? You all know this name. Bethlehem, they went out from Bethlehem and they went to Moab in a very hard days. Let's say there wasn't a war in those days, but it was a famine, a big famine in those days. And one of the things that you're not allowed to do in the days of trouble, in the days of that there are a lot of difficulties, is to run away. You need to be part of the community, of the Hebrew community. And more than that, he was one of those people who left away, were very big people in the Jewish community then, from the Judah tribe, and they went to Moab, and they got married with the most important girls there, okay, with the girls of the king. They died, because they did the sin, they died. And the mother, that was a Jewish mother, and her two daughters-in-law that were not Jewish, they decided to go back. And the mother really begged them to stay there in their community, in their nation. Ruth decided to come, and the other one went away. And this Ruth is coming here to Israel. She is not a Jewish lady at the beginning. At the end, she will do conversion. But there is in the Hebrew nation, and then she's doing conversion. She wants to very much to stick with the Hebrew nation. And there is in those days something very important, a way how to, who is allowed to marry this girl, okay? And there are, I will say, preference, who is supposed to marry her, and who is secondary, and who is, if not, the third one. At the end, she can go and get married with whomever she wants to get married. But the first one doesn't want to get married with her because he's saying in the moment we're going to read it, okay? He's saying, but I have already a family, and if I will marry her, it will disturb my family. I don't want to marry someone that is not from the Jewish community, someone who did conversion. I don't want to marry her. And then they're doing some sort of a ceremony. In a moment, we're going to read the ceremony. Don't be surprised. It's related with the shoe. Some sort of a ceremony. And then the second one can marry her. He is marrying her. And from there, King David will come. I want to remind us all, King David is what? He is the destiny of the Messiah, right? From him, the Messiah will come. And everything is starting with something that is related with the shoe. Let's look for a moment. The exact thing. Let's see, I think it's in 3. Oh. I think maybe it's in 4, just one. It's okay, it's the last chapter. First of all, let's see verses 1 and 2. Okay, we in Ruth chapter 4.
Okay,
let's
Ruth
read
chapter 4. And Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz had spoken was passing, and he said, Turn aside, sit down here, so-and-so. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit down here. And they sat down.
So he's doing a court. By the way, always when it says that they came to the gate of the town, it's the place of the court. And he's gathering 10 people. He's doing the elders, he's doing some sort of a court. And he's asking him, he's asking this guy. Please read verse number 3.
3. And he said to the near kinsman, Naomi, who has returned from the field of Moab, is selling the portion of the field that belonged to our brother Elimelech.
Okay. And then he's saying to him but there's another one condition. Please read verse number 5.
And Boaz said, on the day that you buy the field from the hand of Naomi and from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the deceased, you have bought it to preserve the name of the deceased on his heritage.
Okay, so he's saying to him, you're not only going to buy this place, you're also going to take this wife, okay, Ruth, that came from Moab, you're going to take her as your wife. And the answer of this person is, read verse number 6.
And the near kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my heritage. You redeem my redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it.
He doesn't want to redeem it, okay? I'm going to destroy my heritage. And now let's look for a moment about the ceremony that is going to happen here. Okay, again, don't be surprised. It's part of the Cinderella ceremony. Please read 7, 8, and 9, please.
Okay. 7. Now this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redemption and exchange. To confirm anything, one would remove his shoe and give it to his fellow, and this was the attestation in Israel. And the near kinsman said to Boaz, Buy it for yourself, and he removed his shoe. And Boaz said to the elders and to the entire people, You are witnesses today that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilon's and Mahlon's from Naomi.
So he did here some sort of a ceremony with the shoe. And then what's happening in verse number 10? And also Ruth the Moabitess, Mahlon's wife, I have acquired for myself for a wife to preserve the name of the deceased on his heritage, so that the name of the deceased not be obliterated from his brethren and from the gate of his place. You are witnesses today. So we have here a way of buying, I won't say it, it's not the right word, okay? Of getting bonded together, okay, husband and wife, through this story of the shoe. I think they took it from Cinderella story, no? Maybe we can say this like that also. So we have here, we're starting to realize, okay, that the Cinderella story is holding inside, hiding, very interesting, I will say, understanding. Today it's much easier to see. I want to have another stage of this, okay, another profound looking on this, okay. Part of our sages, especially 500 years ago, we have two sages that started to say that everything that happened to Job, we all know the story of Job, okay? Job had a lot of blessings, a lot of kids, a lot of, he was very wealthy. He gave a lot of charity around. He helped a lot of people. And one day, the Satan decided to check him up, and God allowed him to do a lot of things, to kill all of his kids, to take all of his, to do a lot of suffering, okay, also with himself in his body, okay, he had a lot of illnesses, but God didn't allow him one thing, you're not allowed to take his soul. And then he have very interesting, good friends, 4 friends who were coming, speaking to him, explaining to him that he is suffering because he did a lot of sins, nobody really knows everything, whatever it is, and he's rejecting all of them. At the end, God is exposing himself to Job, sending him or giving him 50 questions, okay? 50 questions, the last 2 or 3 chapters at the end, Where were you when I created this world? God is only asking 50 questions. God is appearing himself only in front of Job, not everyone else. And he is giving 50 questions. And Job is saying, oh, now I understand everything. God didn't give any answers, okay? Only questions. And Job is saying, okay, I'm very comfortable now. And then God restored back everything. And he had again 10 kids and a lot of wealthy and a lot of charity and a lot of blessings to the world. He gave to everybody else. And you're starting to realize that we have sages who said that Job wasn't whatever happened. It's not the story that really happened. There are a few ways how to look on the Job story. And one of the ways that people are saying it speaks about the Hebrew nation. The Hebrew nation that were for almost 900 years, almost 1,000 years, in the 2 Temple Mount eras, okay, the first one and the second one, with only 70 years between them. And in those days, it was a blessing for the world. And especially in King Solomon's time, but not only, right? Lots of blessings to the world and everything else. And then we have 2,000 years, almost 1,800 years of suffering. At the end of those suffering, it's the Holocaust. It's a big suffering. It's not, something small. Third part of this of our nation was born in the chambers. 6 million people from 18 million people. And now God is bringing us back to our homeland and giving us back the blessings. Do we understand everything that's happening in regarding suffering and the time of suffering? It's a different way of looking at things. This is how the Hebrew nation is looking at things. But again, we have the situation of Cinderella. I'm going back to the story, okay? Cinderella story that starts with a very nice family that is living good together, and something is happening there where the girl is suffering for a period of time, and at the end, the prince is coming with the shoe, okay, and taking her back to the palace, where the palace suddenly woke up again to the kingdom, okay, of this, for the whole kingdom that was there. So it looks like a fairy story, but when you're starting to adjust it and to understand it and to look at this, in an interesting way, we can learn a lot of things. I have a good friend in Lithuania that he said to me when I said to him, when I showed him those ideas, he said to me back, first of all, I learned it from one of my rabbis. It's not really a rabbi, okay, but it's someone that was very clever. He passed away already, and someone very clever that was in the university. And he showed us a few things, you're giving more, you're giving less, but more or less we're starting to realize those ideas. And he said to me, look, the way that I'm speaking here, because this story is one of the fundamental stories of the modern world, okay? The Christian world, the modern world, speaking a lot about Cinderella. I don't need to say to you that we all know that Walt Disney, this is one of the first pictures that he did in the cartoons, right? And then lately he also did it on the real one, with the people alive. Soon he's going to do this with the AI, and I'm sure that this is what will happen. But it's one of the ideas that every person is growing up on those ideas, and in the way that I'm showing it now, it's something that is giving peace, a harmony between everybody, between those who are saying this on I will say, on the Christian mindset, but also with the way that we're showing it, suddenly it's getting also more ideas, more, I will say, profound understanding that is related with the world and with the history now. Giving peace to everything. It's combining everything together. It's uniting everything together. This is the main part of the Hebrew nation, to unite everybody together. Okay? The Kuzari that I started with, he is saying in one of the places, we didn't read it together, okay? It's in a part 4 of the Kuzari. He's saying that I will say the king, you remember the king there is a Gentile, that at the end is doing also a conversion. But you have a lot of questions, and the Kuzari, the rabbi, is answering him. And in one of the times he's saying to him, it's in part 4, okay? If I remember correctly, it's 11, 12, 13 there, something like that. It will take me time to find. This is why I'm not opening it. If you want, I can open it. But the king is asking something very simple. He's saying, if we look, for example, nowadays, in the days, I'm speaking about 1,200 years ago, okay, where it's just before the Crusades. The Crusade was in the 1000, 1100, those times of Crusades. Let's go 100 years before, where you have on one side the Muslims in a very, already big shape in this world. And on the other side, you have also the Christians that also are very spread over in this world. And the king of the Kuzari is asking the Jewish, he's saying to him, if you say that God presence in this world, the Almighty, okay, you can see him here. For sure, you can see him today, or in the Muslims, or in the Christians, but you can't see them in the Jews. It's the most worst time of Cinderella, okay, of the Hebrew people in those days, 1,200 years ago. And his answer is, or Levi is answering, that those two tried to steal the Hebrew identity. So if you look at this from far away, it might seem to you in the dark that it's someone there, But when you're getting close, you see that it's only a statue. It's not something real. And this is the same thing. Now it's hard to see. It might be that we think, I'm speaking about 1,200 years ago. It might seem that this is a real, I will say, a person there. But when we will wake up from the darkness and we will get close to that, we will see that it's only a stolen identity from the Hebrew nation. And it's like the stone and the wood, okay? Someone who is building up a statue from the stone or statue from the wood. wood. By the way, the wood is it's compared to the Christians who have the cross of the wood, and the statue is the Kaaba. The Muslims with the stone in the Kaaba in the Saudi Arabian, where this is the main place that they are worshiping. And Rabbi Yudalevi is saying to the king, be aware, we are the real person, and everyone else is only trying to imitate us. There will be a time in the history where people will wake up and will see that it's only a stolen identity that is not something real like the Hebrew and what the Hebrew people are giving here to this world. I was this weekend with my family in some place, and there was on the wall, there was a very big picture, very nice one. And I'm sure that, someone, it took me 12 hours to realize that it was a wall painting. I was sure that it was, a painting that was someone painted a very nice painting and put it on the wall. No, it was a wall painting. And it's very, I don't know all the techniques, but there are techniques how to do a wall painting that when you look on this, it seems very, very real, very real one. And, we all know that there are possibilities of something like that, especially today with all of the AI, whatever it is. But it was someone did it, okay? It was, I looked, how did I saw that it's not a real picture? It was written down, I saw the signature. When I saw the signature, it was written down in Hebrew that it's not real one. It's a painting on the wall. So I came to the wall, looked again. I saw, it's a painting on the wall. It's not the real picture. It's a real picture, but it's painted on the wall, And I touched the wall and I saw, yes, it seems like, inside, outside, whatever it is, but it's all a painting on the wall. It's the same thing, okay? Sometimes you can get confused. And you can live in the story of Cinderella and you are sure that, those two horrible sisters, whatever it is, that are treating very ugly the real Cinderella, the real lady. It's hard for us to be with her, but when you're starting to think about this story and the message that is hidden inside, and looking what's happening today, starting to realize that maybe we are organizing, or I will say, we implementing inside our world in behind the scenes, I will say it like that, in the background of our mind, the preparation of the story of the Hebrew nation doing redemption. And from there on, it will be much easier for all of the world to become, we're calling this Noahide. Again, the Hebrew nation is the only nation that is not asking that everybody will become Hebrew, Jewish. Okay, you need to stay with your identity, but to be part of this big, we'll say, flowers, okay, vase of the flowers, but each flower have its own unique color. And this is what is giving the vase this nice, I will say, beauty of the eye, because each one of them have his different uniqueness. And this is what we basically are saying. So the Cinderella story is one of the stories that it's not us. It didn't come from the Hebrew nation. I don't think so. But it's one of the stories that we implemented here. So it will be easier for people to join this thing of the Noahide. But you're looking at me so seriously. It's a true story. It's okay.
Yes, I was thinking, and is there a link with dreaming? It seems that if I hear you, I think about the reality of the history. Then I hear the story of Cinderella. I see the history. So maybe there is a link with dreaming and dreams coming to reality. So is there a link? I don't know. I was
I'm not.
thinking about it.
No, I'm not 100% sure. I had the interference, and I'm not 100% sure that I got your question exactly. I'm not. I'm not. I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. You didn't explain it.
I was just thinking, there were associations, something. One can have a dream about something, and then there are things happening in real life. Is there a connection between the dream, the Cinderella story, and the real life that is happening in the evolving story of manhood?
I will say like that. There are a lot of dreams that are coming alive. And the dreams that are coming alive, we can see them in Genesis. Okay, for example, Joseph had a dream, it came alive. The servant of Pharaoh had dreams and it came alive. Pharaoh had dreams and it came alive. Right?
Yeah.
There is a relation between the dreams and the reality that is happening after that. And there is also today a science about it that, whatever you will wish, you will think, you will dream, whatever it is, it will become a reality. It's also a bit of a science story about this thing. I don't think, look, it's hard to say because the Cinderella story is something globally. Okay, it's a story that didn't happen or wasn't spoken only in the Grimm Brotherhood stories. Okay, the Cinderella story. It's something much bigger than that. By the way, for example, I'll take the Pinocchio story. I won't go inside to other stories. Okay, too much. I spoke about Cinderella story and I spoke also about the Sleepy Beauty. Okay. Those two stories I mentioned. The Sleepy Beauty I mentioned, by the way, it's related to the Hebrew state, to the land of the Hebrews, okay, that was sleeping for 2,000 years until we came back. And I spoke about Cinderella much more in a wide way. If you will go, there is also research about those things. The story about Pinocchio, okay? The hardcore of the story is in few cultures that in the old days didn't have really connections one with each other. And the question is, what is the source of the story? The same thing is with Cinderella. The same thing with, there's something like 15 or 20 stories that are running in this world, a long history, that the hardcore of those stories are always the same. And then few places in the world that some of those places didn't have any connections in the old days. And suddenly you find those stories in the same places. One of the stories, by the way, is a story of the flood. The flood that we have today, I saw in my eyes, okay? An 800 pages book that is showing how, what is the Atlantis story? You know the Atlantis story, right? It's also a story about flood.
Yeah.
The story about flood. Okay? The story about the flood, we read it in the Bible, but we know that it was also in other places. So we say today, okay, that most probably there was a flood that infected a lot of people that got spread over, and everyone, I will say, saved this story in a different way, or in a different aspect, not different way, because it's the same story is the same story, okay? But the same thing is happening with the Cinderella story. The same thing is happening with the Sleeping Beauty story.
Cinderella was written in the year 1697 by a gentleman named Charles Perrault, the original story.
He wrote it down, but the idea was already around here. People saw it.
Bart, there's a word called...
to define it, to write it, and whatever it is.
It's called intertextuality. There's a word called intertextuality, and the notion of intertextuality is that everything that we write about today is formed from ideas somewhere intertextually in the past. In other words, to come up with truly an original thought is getting rarer and rarer. But, if you get into Hindu philosophy and the way, ideas could connect in the soul realm, Kabbalistically, I think the idea of the way things filter down into this world, there's probably baseline to understand the way ideas materialize. But realistically, people need to be on guard against delusions and illusions. There's a big difference between something concrete and something abstract. But the way an abstract idea comes into fruition, there's stages and processes. If the source is in accordance with Hashem, it can materialize. If it's not, it can be a self-driven idea, and people get lost in illusion and delusion, as we've seen with a lot of formed false religions, for sure. But the term intertextuality is something to look up. It's a unique study because you understand that ideas stem from earlier ideas and springboard from I think the rabbis teach that we ride on the shoulders of the previous sages, for sure. So great ideas stem from original source material. It's just the way things filter. But I love how the Hebrew rabbis brought out the Hebrew story with
I did it because
linked
of
it with Cinderella. Interesting.
No, I will say in 2 sentences to Rabbi Shmuel that you will understand what we're speaking about. But I said it, all those things I brought here because of the Independence Day of the Hebrew nation. Okay, you need to understand. We came back, the Cinderella came back with the shoe. במשפט אני אומר, הבאתי רעיון של פרופסור שלום רוזנברג, שסיפור סינדרלה בעצם מדבר על עם ישראל מול שתי החיות הקשות. הסיפור של הנעל זה כמו ושלף איש נעלו, זה הגאולה, בסדר? והעניין של איוב, שהוא מדבר על הסבל של עם ישראל, והיום אנחנו בעצם סיפור סינדרלה מכין את העולם כולו לזה שהוא מתחבר לעם ישראל ומבין מי באמת המלכה האמיתית. והבאתי ציטוט מהכוזרי, בסדר, על העניין של הזהות הגנובה, וגם הזכרתי את הנושא של היפיפייה הנרדמת, שארץ ישראל הייתה היפיפייה הנרדמת, לאורך ההיסטוריה. אז הסיפורים האלה מחביאים בתוכם, כמו רב נחמן ברסלב, הרבה עומק בקשר לזה. Okay, I filled him up with everything in 2 seconds. Please, Rabbi Shmuel, you want to say something? בבקשה.
Well, it's actually very true that children's stories very often have a tremendous depth within them. And if I can carry on with what Chacham Dan had mentioned also, that one of the differences they suggest between a scientist and a scholar, especially in the Torah side of the word, is a scientist is proud when he comes up with something that nobody ever had said before, and he invents a new idea and a new formula. In Judaism, we are happy when we can find an original source that supports what we're saying. Otherwise, how do we know that it really rectifies the truth? So actually, when we find an original source, we are, to a sense, prouder. And what I agree with Rabbi Goldberg very much is that sometimes you have stories that the original content are not necessarily leading to a Jewish message, but they include within them something which has very long-term ramifications, and we definitely can take it from there. It is indeed quite remarkable that the main change that occurred with the birth of the state, in my opinion, is to realize where we were 5 or 10 years before and where we ended up being after. On Passover, one of the fundamental principles is that one starts off speaking about what was negative, and then you see the positive later. And when you have to make the comparison of the drama between the very low-key situation that we were, and during the Holocaust, the Jews were literally on their knees, and all of a sudden to stand firm and be remarkable success worldwide, especially in the pretense of a 77-year procedure, is something all the more remarkable in its context. And as I say, I mean, if the achievements that we have today would have been occurring 150 years ago, it may not have been surprising. But the situation that we were during the 40s of the 20th century, and where we even were in the early period of the 50s of the 20th century, is such a remarkable change. When you take a baby, for example, you want to go with the Cinderella, go a little bit of a slightly easier thing that I can come to terms with. You take a baby who just on an ultrasound as a fetus barely has anything, and all of a sudden 5 years later the child becomes totally brilliant compared to where they were. It's almost like jumping from 0 to 90. Yes, of course, that between the ages of 5 and 25 there'll be a gradual growth all the time, but the greatest change is actually from 0 to 5, and everything that comes up later is a follow-up of that. And I think I have that feeling. I imagine Rabbi Goldberg is reading me. I didn't ask him about this before, but despite the tremendous growth in the last 15, 20 years, I still have that feeling and appreciation of the early years, because in the early years, the change was all the more dramatic. And there are years which a lot of things happen and grow, but they're only follow-up of something very extreme potential to continue to grow from there and to prosper. I'll even take example from my childhood in the United States. The United States only became an actual independent country in 1776. But within 1 century, it blossomed more than Europe did in a millennia. And sometimes when you look at that in that way, the marvel of the major change, you are all the more appreciative. In our relationship towards God, I think that is a fundamental word of thanks, that when you see the dramatic change, this is something that is so obviously ingrained in the divine support. I don't have to tell Rabbi Goldberg knows better than me, but not that I'm unaware of the tremendous amount of miracles that this country has even gone through in the last year and a half, let alone 75 years before. It's as if we have started all over again. So many miracles that occurred, even one that occurred today, which could have been pre-hazardous. And I mean, it's even difficult for me to imagine, I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, it's difficult for me to imagine that anybody who knows what's going on and even reads the very basic news as it goes through and doesn't appreciate the divine miracles every day that are occurring. And that's one of the fundamental parts of the service that is said 3 times a day, that we say, your wonders and miracles that occur in every morning, afternoon, and evening. You know, when I was a younger person, I said, well, listen, it's a very nice expression to say, but there's only a couple of major highlights that happen. So to say that we feel that feeling every morning, afternoon, and evening seemed to me a little bit far-fetched. But if you take some of the periods that we have undergone, especially in recent years, but not only, you only have to be ignorant not to see the morning, afternoon, and evening drama as it shadows and comes out. That's, I'm not saying that in any way I'm adding much to what the rabbi was saying, but I feel it's a very fundamental issue of faith. And because you as a group are getting more and more involved, all you need is to have, as they would say in Hebrew in an unfair translation, is to adjust the correct glasses that you'll be able to look and see. In other words, I've been wearing glasses for over half a century by this time. But you don't have to go to an optometrist to get the correct outlook on the world. You need something which is a very fundamental basis of faith. And then even without going to the optician or optometrist, you'll have a more natural and positive outlook about what is literally happening. And I'd like to wish all of you in this opportunity that if any of you had any medical difficulties or other difficulties in the last couple months of years, and you have that positive outlook and understanding that when you pray to God, those wonders that he does can be tremendously felt by yourselves, both on a private and on a national level. And it's really dependent on our outlook. And because I have a tendency, like many others, I hope, of being grateful for whatever good things God has done for us, I feel that almost as a daily experience. It's not a novelty. It's not a sermon. It's a given reality. And when you look at it as a given reality, not only as a dream, it becomes a lot more an outpour of truth. Cinderella is a beautiful story in its own, but I think in our case, it's much more than a dream. It's something which, we have actually seen it and continue to see it in many occasions. What can I tell you? And I'm very grateful for that, and I just hope it continues in that way also.
We stand behind the dreams or vision of Israel for a whole nation, and we look forward to the third temple and the fulfillment of everything Hashem has promised to the nation of Israel. And hope you continue to shine as light to the world. And it's always a joy to have you with us, Rabbi Hirschler. Yes, thank you so much. Does anybody in the group have any questions?
I want to tell you, just do it.
Yes, Rabbi Shmuel, yes, please.
I'm just saying, to imagine how many arch enemies we are having at the same time, day after day for the last 18 months, as far away as Yemen, and just to realize how the divine providence is there, it's just earth-shaking. What can I tell you? Yesterday I was speaking in a senior citizens home where the average age of the people there is over 85, and just to hear even from them, the men and the women, the stories of their own winters that they experience and the health which they, thank God, goodness, continue to prosper with. You know what, Dan, it gives a tremendous internal feeling of optimism. And that optimism is based on that God is with us and hopefully with all of us. That it's true. I'm talking out of the bottom of my heart. It's something that I utterly experienced in the last couple of months, day after day. It's
beautiful.
True.
May we all learn to open our eyes to the reality that Hashem has everything under control. And and optimism, you can't go wrong with that. Our day and age here in the West, we see too much pessimism and derogatory stances. Yeah, so it's a joy.
You don't need to come to visit Israel and take a few drops of optimism.
Yeah, Dr. Hevard called me the other day, and he says, you got to come to Israel. Come and visit. I sent him a package from here, and it arrived in Jerusalem, and so got him some camera equipment and stuff. So sent that, and he says you got to come to Israel and visit him, and real exciting. So I said, no, I don't think I can make it this year, but maybe next year, Hashem willing.
Okay.
Be very happy to offer you a free tour around.
It's okay.
Okay, Rabbi, are you okay for next week? Aiming for next week?
Hopefully, yes, next week.
Excellent.
And I will try to send you even before things that you will spread over to people. And
okay.
I will send you also.
Please do stay in touch. We so appreciate you and your time. We know how busy you are. And Rabbi Hirschler, it's always a joy to have you with our class.
Thank you so much.
Very clear messages always, for sure. So on that note, if nobody has any questions maybe for Rabbi Hirschler or anything, maybe we should shut it down for today. Okay, Rabbi, blessings to you.
Have a blessed week, everybody. Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. So I think on that note, we're going to close it down for today, and we will, Hashem willing, be back next week, same time. Bart, thanks for all your help and support. Appreciate you there. And Batya, welcome from Stuttgart. Helen, Martina, always a joy to have you with us, and everybody that joins in. Till next week, everybody, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye for now.